We're back again.
Hello.
How was your week?
Week's been good. I feel like I've been recovering the entire time. I went to a rave at the zoo this past weekend, and ever since
Okay,
then,
those 2 words not go together. A rave at the zoo. Um,
essentially it was a rave at the zoo.
Tell me
Um,
more. This is strange.
well, it was more of like a DJ. There were several DJs there, and it was kind of like an after hours party for adults. So instead of toddlers, it was just inebriated adults. So essentially, the experience was the exact same, but just
I'm
at
sure
night.
the animals did not think so, and they probably loved it. And I'm
I felt
joking.
bad for the animals because I mean, you could walk through some of the exhibits. They had the aquarium and then they had the penguin exhibit. And you could kind of just tell it's like they were ready for bed, essentially.
Well, I mean, I'm not I'm not in love with any of it simply because that's such a human 3D type of perspective. You think about it this way. I can't even hardly be around people drinking alcohol because of the shift in the energy that
Yeah.
happens. And it doesn't matter if they're happy or not happy. The energy shift makes me feel uncomfortable or kind of guarded sometimes. That being said, animals purely work with energy on how they're perceiving things and living, and that's part of their life. It's who they are. They rely on that more than they rely on a lot of physical senses most of the time. That being said, now you have a bunch of drunk people in your house that have to be lots of fun. So, yeah, that seems
Yeah, it was
sad.
interesting. I don't know. It's like if you ever want to know how old you really are, just do that and then report back because I feel like either was like, yeah, I don't think this is really what I what I should be doing, but it was a fundraiser for the zoo. So, I mean, they
Well,
were kind.
that's good. That's a whole nother topic we probably should not go into, would be my
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, we don't need to
I
go down that road.
zoos, circuses, I'm not a fan. There are some educational aspects if they're wounded, I feel like, and maybe they would have, I don't know, not survived. I think that there's ways that you could utilize them as what do you call those? Recovery, not recovery, but what are those called when they're helping the animals? Like a
Oh,
rehabilitation.
rehab, yeah.
Yeah. So there's aspects where that might be okay. And then you're teaching younger people, children, things about the animals, which maybe would make them want to protect them or learn about them or things like that. But taking healthy animals, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, yeah. I would say aside from that, how's your week been? I feel like
Oh,
the energy's been all over the place.
oh my, the energy is absolute chaos. It's just not working well with many of those who are sensitive beings. Emotional roller coaster would be an understatement for everybody.
Yeah, I think and then when this episode comes out, we'll just have had the new moon. And then I always thought this month was so interesting because the first day of the month began with a full moon and the last day is going to end with
With
another
a
full
full
moon.
moon. Yeah, correct. And
So it's
even though this will have passed, the energy by the time the podcast comes out, it'll be a few days. I do the energy reports. So I have those on YouTube, on the what is that, the post section, and then also on my newsletter and some other places. So you will find those from me. I try to put them out weekly, try to hit Mondays usually, just for everybody else who is like me and you. It's very helpful. I even look at that energy clearly to do the report so that I know what I need to prepare myself for. It helps you to compartmentalize. It helps you to stop with the why would my life be doing this? What am I doing here to yes, I have to understand this, figure it out, but clearly there's an influence planetary, which is why the timing's coming down to why am I looking at health stuff right now? Or why am I looking at relationship stuff right now? Or why does this feel wobbly? And it's really interesting because when it comes to the relationship stuff, every time that comes up, right before when I'm doing the report, I'm getting it all ready and I'm like, oh, relationship stuff. Well, everything seems good. And then by the end of the week, I'm like, guess I should have paid more attention to that. That was totally accurate. So it's just really interesting.
Yeah, I would say that the energy reports are nice because it kind of gives you prompts to reflect on what's going on
Yes.
in your own life so that you can kind of troubleshoot or at least review the things that are happening in your life to,
Right.
okay, should I pivot or change? Should I, need to address this? So, yeah,
Well, I'm a
very
big fan of, if you're going to give information, give a tip. Like if we're going to say, hey, here's some things that might happen, or here's what's happening with the energy. If I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, that's fine and dandy, but then what do I do to y- y- to work with this energy or
yeah.
to move through it unscathed as possible? So do try to add tips in with everyone, or here's what your focus should be and here's what you should not focus on until later or next week, because I need to know that myself.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
So, there was something I wanted to actually ask you about, shifting gears a bit. I recently saw that Mikayla Matthews, she's actually one of the stars on the show The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. She
Okay.
just moved to Hawaii. And of course,
Oh,
I know
really?
you're there. And so I don't think it's the same island. I think she might be moving to Maui.
Mm,
But it
that's
it sparked some questions and some thoughts because the reason she moved to Hawaii was she actually suffers from something called
I was
chronic
gonna say
inflammatory.
it was a medical condition, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, the CIRS, the chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and they
Which
were
would be
saying,
like, skin and, like, it some internal things, but also a lot of skin things, correct?
yes. Have you've watched the show,
I
correct?
have watched it before, but when you were talking about her moving to Hawaii, I knew immediately it was for medical reasons. She's assuming that, or being told that the environment, as far as like
Like
the
climate.
sunshine, the vitamin D, the climate, the humidity, things of that nature, it's different here than it is on the mainland. Very, very, very different when it comes to climate. I mean, you're in the sun way more. The temperature is a lot more regulated. Where on the mainland, you have these very extreme temperature changes. We don't get, okay, let me backtrack because all my people on the mainland, when I'm like, it's freezing here, they're like, okay,
Well,
yes,
yeah, I tell you that all the time. You're
don't want
like,
to hear
"It's
about it. Yeah,
65." I'm like, "Calm down."
let's not get all crazy. So, that being said, if you're here in Hawaii, they do feel a little extreme. You get acclimated. So, there is an acclimation that does happen. However, if we're going to all the other aspects, it's also a lot more moisturizing, the humidity is different. So the first thing I notice when I hit the mainland is I feel like SpongeBob out of water. Your skin starts, oh my gosh, it's the craziest thing. Your hair, your skin, and it's not just outside your body, it's your nose, your throat, your everything just causes a different response. And what I also mean by that is when your nose and all that gets dry, it inflames. It's crazy. So you end up with stuffy noses and you can't breathe as well as you would if you're in a more uh, humid environment.
Yeah,
Anyways.
so I
Mhm.
actually had a couple of questions on this because, they said one, the climate would be helpful for this. But then I also wanted to take a look and get your perspective at the actual physical location of a place. And can a physical location be more healing? Or
Oh,
even getting her out of the environment that she has been in Utah. And if there has been a lot of like toxicity and drama, even removing yourself from that, from a medical intuitive perspective, how could that potentially be healing for her?
Well, you have both avenues and they both do matter. When you're in a potential environment, whether that be stressful or depressing or whatever, that's going to affect a lot of your health, just that alone. Then you add climate on top of that. So she had the worst combination. She kind of had a double combination from what I can sense, which is the stress of the environment and then the climate on top of that. And she, I believe, and if not, I'm just sensing it, has had a lot of history that has been very stressful, abusive, and whatnot in that same area. So now you have even another layer, which is reminders everywhere that you're going are triggers. When you stay in an environment that you've had a traumatic experience in or some type of I don't want to always say traumatic, but like a sad experience, something that's very uncomfortable, an uncomfortable experience. That would be a good word because that could be extreme, it could be lightly. It leaves an imprint visually often. So when you are around an area or you see something, there's a trigger that happens where your frequency of your body goes right back to the frequency of when you experience something uncomfortable. And that frequency dictates your emotional, physical, spiritual health and well-being. So when you have a traumatic thing or an unpleasant experience, think of it like you get coded in essence to a certain, I like to tell people like a song because it helps them to understand a little bit better, helps them to kind of wrap their brain around it. Because you can think of it like if you're a computer person, like coding, if you're a musician or a creative person, like a song or like a painting. So it creates this frequency with this rhythm or this flow to it that you may not want to revisit again, but there will be triggers, visually, auditory, oftentimes, that will pull you right back to that frequency. And now the body doesn't know any different. And sometimes the psyche doesn't know any different. It just is right back where it was at that particular moment in time. And the interesting thing that happens is the body then responds as if it's happening all over again. So it's like you're reliving the the crash over and over again of the experience. So just removing yourself from those types of things, unless you do something called timeline collapsing, which I did write in my quantum heart book, and I teach in my class. If you rewrite your timeline, we can put a more dominant impression over top of that. There's a technique that you can use. But if you don't know how to do that, it's like you're reliving it constantly over and over again. Oh, so environments also, I think was your next one, like particular points on Earth. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
just like the frequency of a location, and could that be helpful in healing more than just, where she currently was?
Yes. Hawaii is very well known as one of the 7 points on Earth that has a higher frequency. So that means that there are many different places on Earth that they all vibrate differently. And I've sensed this. This is why I have a very hard time being in certain locations, and other locations it feels amazing and fantastic. The Earth is living, breathing, you know, I don't know, it's a living, breathing entity. It's a living, breathing thing, just like plants and animals and us. And it also has frequencies that it puts out into, different locations, and you will feel it. Now, what has happened over the years can sometimes influence that point, but there's also very special portal points as well. So there's a lot that goes on into that conversation, but Hawaii is very well known and people sense it often when they are here. It's not just well known in the community, it's well known in the culture and the history, and then people that come experience it. that the frequency is different here. Very much so aligned with a healing frequency. It's one of the points on Earth that Lemuria was known to have been.
Yeah, that's super fascinating. Because then I also wonder too, is like as she moves here, sorry, my dog is going insane. If she moves here and or if she moves to
I was
Hawaii,
gonna say, it's like you're in the other room.
I don't know, my brain is gone today.
Well, you are in Hawaii a lot, so there we go.
This is true. If she moves to Hawaii and she does really well, is she just stuck there forever? Right?
No,
Well,
and
not
that's the
stuck,
next
but
thing I
like,
was gonna say is I feel like she's gonna be around here for right around 2 years, maybe 2.5, 2.6 years. That is most likely what I see is gonna happen with her. It's interesting because a lot of people that do move here from the mainland, there is such a thing called a culture shock, and it doesn't resonate with everybody. You know, you can't just get in your car and drive somewhere, and you're taking a roughly a 5-hour plane ride to pretty much anywhere. And the culture is different. It's more slowed down. Things aren't looked at the same way. The food is different. There's a lot of different things that happen. While clearly that works great for me and a lot of other people, I've seen a lot of people come and then move back. They wanna be closer to family, they wanna be closer to whatever, but I kept getting the minute you said that, I kept seeing 2.6, which means I feel like that's her time frame for being here. And can a lot change for her during that time? Absolutely. A lot of healing can happen within that time frame. Healing can take place very quickly when you shift some things. It doesn't have to take years. Years of unpleasant experiences can be healed very quickly. There's no time frame for everybody is different, you know? The way that
and
you
I can
perceive things.
testify to that
Mhm.
because I think I don't even remember what year that might have been 2023. And I did a spiritual health mapping session with you because I was navigating a ton of health issues. And I remember the next day after waking up because I had struggled so much with being nauseous 24/7. I couldn't eat. And then the next day I was actually hungry. And that was just like, I think I probably cried just because it was something I hadn't
You
experienced
did,
in
I
so
remember
long.
because you called me and you started crying and I didn't know what was wrong. I'm like, Is this a good? Is this not good?" Like, I don't know. Well, actually, I called you to check on you. But either way, I was like, "What's happening? What's happening? Say words.
Well,
Say
I mean, it's
something."
just so tough when you've experienced something of just being unwell for so long and to have a breakthrough in such a short, quick amount of time. Like it
Right.
can be really powerful. And it's just all about addressing the right things. So for her, I hope because like when I would watch the show, I could clearly see that all of the abuse that she had suffered from an early age, I was like, that is 1000% factoring into her health issues. And like if she were to actually tackle those, I feel like she could make really huge strides.
Oh, absolutely, but that's most people's issue when they're having health issues. She just happens to be in the spotlight. We're not taught on how to do that, however. We're taught our body's failing us, which moves into the medical intuition class that I am going to be teaching at the beginning of June. And
Yes.
if you're watching this later, it should still be up because I'm going to keep it up as an evergreen course because I do feel like it is so incredibly important. We are taught problematically, if you ask me. We are taught in a way that causes you more issues 100% more issues than if you're taught correctly. And I really felt the need to, especially because I do medical mediumship, to teach others how to scan their own bodies, be in tune to the energy, just understand how health and healing happens, but also understand how does your body actually function? Where do you have control? And how can you make a difference? How can you learn to recognize things before they become a problem? And when they become a problem, how do you reverse that? I just feel like everybody is in, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that they're under the assumption that, again, their body's failing them. So they start going, oh my gosh, what part do I need replaced? What oil do I need to put in there? Like we're car parts, like we're a car, and then we didn't maintain it properly. So things start breaking down and we need to put spark plugs or tires or replace this, or you didn't replace that long enough. So now all these other problems are happening. And after you drive it for so long, all the wheels fall off. That's not how the body works, but that's our perception for most people on how it works, which ties your hands essentially. It makes you feel like you have zero control over your health. I mean, if you look at it from that aspect, well, I was born with a bum part. I wore this part out too quickly. I mean, that is a horrible, horrible feeling that you have no control. And then you have to rely on people that you may or may not trust, because you have to sort through all the proper medical places to find people that resonate with you properly to help you to fix that. And even when you can find somebody that resonates with you, and I totally believe there's a place for the medical industry for sure. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think that we cut that out at all, but I do think it has to be married with other information and sharing how to understand why you got that place to that place in the first place. It's very, very important. So if you do find somebody, a lot of the time it's like, we don't know what causes this. We can't tell you how this started. You don't get much education on it. What you get is statistics. Statistics don't help me at all. And I don't find that that's going to be useful moving forward if you want to stay in the healthiest place you can be. And here's the other thing that I'm going to get into in the medical intuition class is everything is overcomplicated in people's heads. That's the part that sticks with me the most is you're overcomplicating things like nobody's business. It's actually much simpler to understand your body. But here's another thing that's interesting. If you tell somebody something very simply, this needs shifting, it's so fascinating how many people do not believe you. They are really trained to believe that you have to have a hip replacement or surgery. Didn't they want you to do a surgery
Oh,
for that
yeah.
thing?
Yeah, so I had suffered from gastroparesis and I was first diagnosed with it in 2007, which was funny because at that time they were like, maybe you'll get better, maybe you won't. And so it
Yep.
was like, well, that's encouraging, right?
And
And I,
did they tell you what it was caused? Were they like, we have no idea?
yeah, they said it was idiopathic, which means we have no clue on why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. So that was
Yeah.
also super fun.
Okay.
I think that there's just been a lot more, knowledge over the years where they've learned that gastroparesis can be stress induced. And I think that that was 100% what I experience. And I
Hmm.
have experienced several times. But the second time I got gastroparesis, the doctor I went to said, oh, well, we could just like cut your pyloric sphincter open and maybe the food will just fall out of your stomach that way. And I was like, nope, that's not. I was so done with him after that. I was like, I'm never going back to that doctor.
That's the most ridiculous thing ever.
Yeah.
It really is. However, is what their training, whatever their training is the extent of their knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And you have many different people, just like you would have some good car mechanics and some good teachers. And, we have that issue, which is why it's important to shop around for anything that you're doing in life. That being said, I just find it so interesting that that's what people want, though. You're an anomaly for that sort of thing, because I cannot tell you the amount of people that I know that are just people that that maybe they're not interested in what I do, this type of thing, and so we don't really talk about it, but they would have a health issue, and the first thing they want is a surgery, a pill, a prescription, a something. And when I've suggested, hey, well, maybe you might want to look at this, it's dismissed faster than anything. Like, I didn't even say words. It's like it just didn't even hit like, it's dismissed so fast it didn't even park in the brain anywhere. And so it's like, huh, okay. Interesting to me. But that's where that
Well,
belief system forms. Yeah.
I used to definitely be in that camp where just thinking that things happen to you randomly or that you were just at the mercy of the universe for whatever new disease or illness that you got until I obviously went through the things that I did with you and you helping me. And now I'm looking for the pattern. So I think that this is going to be really this class that you're doing is going to be very helpful for anybody who wants to recognize the pattern. Because now, if I get knee pain or lower back pain, I'm like, I know that that's a stability issue. Where do I feel unstable in my life? What items do I need to address? Are my boundaries not strong enough? So I'm starting to go through checklists of what
Well,
I'm experiencing in my physical. Go for it.
and to be fair on that, see, a lot of people listening to things like this go, oh God, okay. We're now talking about, weird things such as stability and responsibility and stuff. When you get into medical intuition, it absolutely goes deeper than that because there are a lot of people that are missing certain nutrients. They are missing very simple physical techniques that the physical body actually needs. So while that is a component to it, it's not all of it. It's not all just walking down, where's my stress? It's understanding a lot of different things, a lot of different angles of, okay, you do have inflammation here and this is related to this and this, and you may need this nutrient and you may need this. So there's usually more to it than just that. And I just want to point that out because when people say something like, okay, well, if you're having an asthma thing, it's a, I don't know, like an insecurity or like a worry or whatever that they might say it is. I feel like that sounds too unbelievable. And here's the worst part about just saying it that way. Most people don't unravel their worries and fears very easily. And they do not put the weight on them they should be, like, meaning this is really affecting your life in these ways. Even if they did and said, okay, I understand this is affecting my life this way. It's so confusing on how to redo that. It's so confusing on how do I get my brain to stop being under stress? How do I get my perception to change? That's where some other techniques come in as well. So it's a combination of using a lot of different things, but it's really coming down to understanding how the body works is the main part. Understanding how do you get inflamed on a physical level? How do you get answers to your stomach situation when everybody else is going, sorry, I have no idea what that is caused by. We really can't pinpoint it. It's coming at a place of being able to backtrack and then shift and change some things moving forward than it is just having like this, oh, okay, I'm under stress. Because truthfully, pretty much anybody who's listening to this podcast is going to be like, oh, that's me. I mean, everybody's under stress. And the point there, you need to be working, you need to be able to function and live life without just, with being under stress because nobody's going to be stress free. That's just ridiculous. And I tell people that all the time. I mean, you're just not going to do it. You could get up, do yoga every single day. You could do your meditation. You could live a block from the beach. You could read all the right books. You could win the lottery. And I know that most people would be like, yes, I would be stress free. But no, there are things that come up in relationships or friendships or whatever that cause people stress. So no matter what, you need to be able to navigate a life with stress in it. And that's the point. But also the point is understanding how the body works and why it's responding the way it is. That's the gold. Then shift things moving forward that can make the body settle down and then behave differently. That's what the course is more about. And moving forward, everybody's becoming more sensitive. So we've talked about empaths, we've talked about, people who understand what an empath is and all that kind of stuff, or people whose abilities are developing. All the children are coming in this way. More people are amplifying their gifts than ever before. The same systems that we were working with, they're just not going to work for these people anymore. It's just not going to happen.
A couple of points that I wanted to tack on to what you were talking about. I don't think I could have sorted through these issues myself without you. I think when you are just in a place of crisis, digging through things, you're kind of have tunnel vision. So it was so necessary to have you as an outside perspective. And the other thing is, it's not just what's happening in your life right now. We walked through literally childhood, through every stage of my life, kind of cleaning up house of like really understanding how every experience affected my health, even to the point that I was in. So it's necessary to kind of have somebody else to help guide you as much as you can. Start to pick some things apart yourself and try to get to the root of it. I think having another person to help guide that, whether that's a therapist, whether that's a session with you, which I'm sure you would be happy to, help people through if they really wanted that. It's helpful to have another person or perspective to
Well,
help
it's
figure things out.
helpful to have the education. That's the main part. Like, I even more so than the session, because that's actually, I've kind of moved more from sessions to just educating people, because the education part is the gold. I do believe that people can sort through those things as long as they understand how it works and they are given some proper techniques. That's really the difference. When you came in, you just had no reference to understanding how that was going to work in your body. That's how you've moved forward differently, though. You've taken that information and now you're applying it all the time, which is the point. You have
Yeah.
learned, yeah, we're gonna
Because
say.
I feel like once you see something, you can't unsee it. So it's
Mhm.
like once you have that vocabulary and that awareness of what's really happening, it kind of changes how you view everything moving forward.
Right. It's just that's where the gold is. The gold is in the educating yourself. It's really it. It's not about necessarily having even a medical mediumship session. I would say if I could take anybody, I would rather put them into a class and educate them than do a medical mediumship session on them all day long, because people are smart. If you're interested and you get the education, you're going to be able to shift and change things in your life. I have no doubt, which is why I teach what I teach. But that to me is more important. It's kind of like, what's that saying? If you catch a fish, teach somebody to fish, they feed themselves for a lifetime. You give somebody a fish, it's the same type of thing. I want to
Yeah.
teach everybody to fish in the medical media, medical intuitive world. So I think that that's where you're really gonna gain some knowledge, and then you can teach, which is something I was talked about. Is my kids have grown up differently, 100% differently than I did, because I have taught them very much differently about their health and how that works. And I have grandchildren now. They are utilizing it as young parents with their own children. Then they will teach their children. So it's not just teaching yourself, it's changing a cycle within your own family too.
Yeah, that's really cool. I also wanted to ask you about some things that have been going around in the news because recently there's been a lot of talk about the hantavirus, and I feel like the newscasters of the world are making it feel like it's the next COVID, like the world's going to shut down. But then you have all of the scientists that are saying that this is not really something to be concerned of. There's even people that they're observing in Kansas City with potential exposure to this virus. So from your perspective, do you know much about it? Do you feel like this is something that we have to worry about?
Oh, I was just going to say this is off topic, but how do you not work for like TMZ or something? You know more stuff. You know
It's
more
called
things that are
chronically
going on.
online.
That is just blows my mind. Like you are the most up to date person. If I need to know anything, I'm coming to you going, "Hey, I don't know about this, but somebody just talked to me about it. What's happening?" Oh, okay. Well, there was this and this and this. It's awesome.
I'm a
That
childless millennial and I have nothing else to do.
well, that makes total sense. Okay. That being said, I have only a speck of knowledge on this, and I don't even know where it came up. I didn't even dive down that because I don't. And because the minute I seen it on some type of headline, I was like, oh my God, okay, this is their new thing. This is ridiculous. Get a, like, I don't even, I want to pay zero mental energy to this because it is so ridiculous. Are we going to do this with every single thing? Because the other thing that people forget is we've done this for years and years and years. There was the bird flu. There was influenza. First, it was flu. Then it turned into influenza. Oh my God, it's influenza. Then it turned into influenza A and then influenza B. And oh my God, one was worse than the other. Then it was the bird flu. Oh my God, does everybody have the bird flu? And that, I mean, this is not, nothing is new here. The difference is there was government regulation which came in with COVID, which turned that, in my opinion, into a whole nother thing that had nothing to do with the virus itself. You know, we're talking about where we have legislation involved. We have aspects where we were very much told what we could and could not do. That to me is far beyond the virus itself. And now we have another one. There's never gonna not be a virus. Let's just go there.
Yeah.
There will never not be a virus that is not going to be in the headlines for the rest of your life. Just assume, just start there. If you just go ahead and work with that information, every time one comes out, you'll just move on to the next TikTok video or whatever you're doing.
Do you think this is actually more so a distraction strategy from the mainstream media or the government or whoever wants to dangle a carrot and say, hey, look over here, look at this crazy thing, so
Not
that they
on
can
this one in
distract?
particular. I don't feel like that. I feel like it was something some news people got a hold of. I think that any type of virus stuff is hot news in itself. You know, people are, again, so worried about their immortality and their health and not having control over their health that it's amplified consistently. And because the knowledge isn't there, because they do not educate themselves on how the body actually works, or they feel like they do know how the body works and they're still scared, then I feel like it's a hot topic. It's something that people gravitate towards. Everybody clicks on things that are disastrous, things that are scary, things that amplify fear. Your natural instincts as a human is to protect yourself. You know, that is a natural human instinct. You know, before it was don't go down to the river, there's alligators in there. That was what it was. Now it's don't go here because there's whatever that virus was you called it. So it's a survival technique that people have, but I believe it's become an addiction and their own distraction. If you're afraid of something like a virus, let's just say, that is going to shift your mindset completely away from things that are happening in your own life that maybe you're not in love with or that you're feeling depressed about or you're, unhappy with. It shifts. It's a distraction for yourself, essentially, because fear is stronger for you. And if you can point your unhappiness or worry or fear outside of yourself into something else, we can target that, then you've distracted yourself from what's kind of going on. So I don't think that those things will ever not be a hot topic, regardless of if it's a planted distraction in the media or not. I don't think that you have to do much for any type of distraction because people are so ready for the next fearful thing.
Yeah, I just feel like everybody thinks that it's going to be COVID lockdown all over again. And I think that that was just such a terrible experience for so many people that they don't want to go back to that. Do
I
you think we'll
really
ever go back to
don't
a time?
believe I for that to happen, it's gonna have to be very extreme. The backlash would be unreal at this point. I feel like what they did with COVID is they pushed it, and I've talked about this before, they pushed it a little too far. They were, how far can we get? How much control can we have, etcetera, but they went too far. And once they went too far, you're never gonna get that same type of response out of people ever again. I do not believe.
Yeah, there's just so much stories that are evoking fear, like some of the other ones that I've been seeing now. And this is more TikTok. This is not mainstream news, but I found it interesting how the Anunnaki keeps coming up as a topic because of some ancient like Sumerian texts where they said that they come to Earth every 3,600 years, and there was documentation of like the last time, so they calculated it and it looked like their next arrival time was 2029. That's a lot to unpack, but I was like, it's interesting because they were talking about the star system and the orbit, and it kind of has this like wavy elliptical orbit, so that when the timing aligns, then it becomes like a lot closer to Earth.
And what are they fearful that the Anunnaki is gonna come and do?
I don't think that's necessarily a fearful thing because it's just being brought. I'm seeing a lot more news stories about it because it's more from the sense that, hey, they've worked with us in the past. They've visited our planet many times. They're due for another, chat. So
Mhm.
I think it's fascinating. And it was more talking about how they've come and they've helped with the technology on this planet, like teaching people. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts
So
on,
I
yeah,
think it's interesting. They think it's a one in how many years?
3,600.
Okay, that's what I think's interesting. You really honestly think that they come only every 3,600 years?
Yeah.
That to me is ludicrous. We have more contact than people would ever even realize. It's the fact that they think that there's a gap of 3,600 years, that's hilarious to me.
Do you think they have a base on the planet? Like, do they have beings here or
As
do they
far as
not even
they
need to be here physically? I'm sure that they could
I
communicate.
do believe that there are some stations here on Earth, but I don't believe it's the way that people think that they are. I don't think that they need to be necessarily based here in the way that people have in their mind.
Yeah.
But it's just, they're here often. I, I, I don't know what really to say other than that. Is it's just I know that they're around often, and you can I mean, the visuals, you have the visuals also, but they're coming in, they're involved with technology. This is not really a secret anymore. I mean, more and more things are coming out of that. I think it's interesting, the gap, like I said. But yeah, I absolutely, there are other world beings, they visit here. It's not a secret. It's, I guess, whether people believe it or not. And that's really interesting to me because I was like, why does it freak out so many people that they would be like, oh, this is happening or that's happening one way or the other? And people get all crazy on one hand or the other hand. It really comes down to the reality that people want to live in. That's how you form your perception and belief system. I mean, that's just truthfully how you form all of it based on religion, medical care, aliens, whatever you want to talk about. It's formed by how you want to live your life and what you want to believe or not believe is true and what you can handle and what you can't handle. And that to me is very fascinating because, I mean, how does that really change things? How it really changes things. I was thinking about this actually, was it today or the other day? How does it really change things if people truly believe that the aliens are coming in and they have been coming in? The only thing that it really shifts, I think, in my perception, is that you don't trust the people who kept telling you, no, it's not happening. So now it's rocked your trust foundation of who do you believe in, and where are you gonna trust, with what your beliefs are. Are you going to trust this organization or these people or these family members or these parents or these where are you going to put your trust? And I think that that's really comes down to is it really rocks your foundation of who do you believe and who makes you feel safe. I can't really come to any other conclusion other than because it's why does it matter? I really don't know. There's evidence out there that people will try to dismiss like crazy, but then there's other evidence that they're ready to jump on, like the virus thing that you're talking about. Like, oh my gosh, they're definitely, that is absolutely a thing. So it's like on one hand, they'll dismiss credible evidence, and on the other hand, with credible evidence, they'll run with it. But like you have two ends of the spectrum. And I'm like, what's the difference? The difference is it rocks your foundation of who you put your belief system into, is what I think is happening. And then now
Yeah.
you have to question your beliefs.
Yeah, because I think I'm just disappointed. It's like we've been lied to by our government our entire lives. And so that's super disappointing because you can definitely, I can see how that could break somebody and make them spiral to be like, if this is true, then what else is true? It kind of rocks you to your core of you don't know what to believe anymore. And you just
Right.
don't, just like you were saying. But the other thing is like, I think it's exciting. I was like, man, there's unlimited possibilities. What else is out there? To me, it's like more opportunistic of like
Well,
magical.
that's a healthy reaction. Is you also kind of use your own intuition, think for yourself. You're tuned into your own information. You're not putting all of your health and well-being and your life in the hands of other people's belief systems. That makes a huge difference. The more people are in tune to their own intuitive instincts, the more that they can guide themselves, and they do not feel like that they have to rely upon other people to be guided, because that is the problem with being guided by other people and not your own intuitive instincts. Is if those people go the wrong direction. Let's just say you choose out of 6 people, you have a compass and you're in the jungle and you need to get to a point, or you need to get out of the jungle to safety or whatever. And you choose the wrong person that's going the wrong direction, or they keep going in circles. You've relied on this person, their information, their belief system, what they're going to do, their actions. But if you had the compass and you trusted yourself and you had the same instructions, you get to choose how to do things. So if something gets messed up, then really it's on you. People don't like it to be on them. They don't want to believe in something that may, they don't want the responsibility for that. So they want to put their trust in somebody else. And when you do that, you're just putting your trust in somebody else. It doesn't mean that they're always right. It means that you've just handed it over and whatever. They could be wrong. They could be mm, totally honest. They could be misleading, but you're still handing it to another person, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because there's
Yeah.
other things that I heard that were super fascinating. Where Tom DeLonge, do you know he's from Blink 182? I don't know if you've heard his name before, but
I know the group. I do not know the name.
so it's very fascinating because he's gotten very deep into UFO space, alien space, being briefed in on like different working with government agencies on it. And he goes, as it's been explained to me, because I think this was like a podcast clip, that the universe is teeming with life. Every planet has life. Even the thing that fascinated me the most is he was talking about there's even ribbons of light that have consciousness that are floating in space like whales in the ocean. And for
Mhm.
me, I don't know why that was so fascinating, but it just was of thinking about all kinds and just different forms, not only beings, but just light beings as well
But that's
that
how
are
you get information. When you're tuning into your intuitive abilities, you're tuning into a wave. You know,
Yeah.
when you're reaching for information in the spirit realm, you're tuning into a wave frequency, and that wave frequency holds information. And so, yeah, it's absolutely what you're doing. Again, it comes down to education and knowledge and understanding what you're doing. To me, I'm just so the opposite, where I'm like, of regular people, not you, but regular people, where I'm like, really, you just really honestly, you understand that there are many, many, many galaxies, and honestly, your opinion is we are the only life source. Come on, like, I just, that blows my mind. And the simple fact that these people don't just need evidence, they need evidence coming from very specific places. I mean, that's weird, but whatever, to each his own. I just think that's just crazy that you know this. We're taught that, we are taught in school the amount of galaxies, and then to go so far as to really think that that just seems so, I don't know.
I've
I
always thought as a small child how ludicrous it was to think that we were the only thing of all the space out there, just planet Earth, just humans. No, that was like, I'm not
Well,
buying
see,
it.
and as a small child, I never even considered the possibility that. I just that we were the only ones. I just didn't even, that wasn't even on my radar whatsoever. It never has been. And I guess to your point, when people would say that though, I'd be like, huh. But of course, I was also psychic, and there was
You're
all that too.
different, Jen.
I well, I mean, because there was that, and people already were skeptical, so they were just like, okay, yeah, you must be where we come to. You don't believe in God, and you are crazy. And how do you do that? And like the amount of things that people think, anyways, when you're already there. Me questioning why other people would really think there wasn't other people in the universe that you already know is so vast. I mean, that just, you can put that under, do you even believe in God? Do you even believe in this? Do you, you know, that one just again blows my mind. Like the God part, oh, you definitely must not have a relationship with God. And I'm like, really? That's okay. It's just interesting.
I know, because even when I've been told or people thought that I was an atheist, I was like, what?
Like, it's so crazy to me how people come up with their concepts and their perception. I'm just like, wow, that's, you live in that world, huh? That's
Yeah,
what
I
I
was like,
think.
you don't
I
you
think,
don't know me at
wow,
all.
that is your reality. But getting to talk about identities too, that's interesting. I've been thinking about that a lot as well. You know, people's form their own identities based on experiences in their life as well. So when we were talking about the medical intuition one, not to circle back, but I do find that also fascinating. And I will have to get into this. I will get into this in the class, but it's interesting to me how much that people form identities based on unhealthy experiences that they've had,
Mm.
which then cause them health issues. Hence, like the one girl you were talking about, Mikayla. I really believe a lot of her issue too is her forming also an unhealthy identity of herself based on experience that she's had. And that's discounted a lot of times, of how you form your own identity and then how you project that into the world. And how people see you is often very different because they're not looking at you through a lens of experiences that you've had. They're looking at you very differently. They're looking at other aspects of you that might be really great things, usually. So, however, the opposite can be true. You can think good things about yourself and then have people be like, "Oh, you're an atheist?" So there's that too. Where it's like, again, getting back to, yeah, you really have no idea who I am or what I do or whatever.
Yeah, so funny.
And I think it's interesting. I do like that they're trying to disclose things so that people can make up their own mind. I think that that's kind of interesting, though, like the convincing aspect. It's the same as, I've never tried to convince anybody that I do what I do, because that's not why I have my gift. And it's not something I want to spend my time doing, is convincing people that, psychic stuff is real or even medical intuition is real. If you are drawn to it, you're into it, I can teach you a lot of things. But I'm not really, I just don't want to spend my time convincing people anything. Aliens are real, intuition is real, remote viewing is real. It's like, why you're not supposed to convince people. You're supposed to be able to give them information and then they get to decide, what they
Well,
want
that's
to
the
believe and
beauty
what
of
they don't
free
want to believe.
will, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like we
But I
all are
do.
here to choose what we believe and design our lives with the thoughts and beliefs and intentions that we have.
Right. But my point is the reactions from people are just fascinating to me. Like, oh, well, this is coming out, but that's not real. And they get adamant about taking a stance of, I'm not going to believe in this. And that's their right and they can do that. But then they want to only take that stance if they can make everybody else crazy that believes in it. It's really fascinating to me how that works because I don't really care one way or another if you believe in these things or don't believe in these things. I'm just here to help teach you. If you do, give you my mindset, show you an alternate view, educate you on the things that I know, because that's the only stuff I teach. I only teach on what I know and experience. I don't teach based off other things that I haven't had experience with. So that's why I'm not going to teach you how to, change the brakes in your car or something.
I just
But
think we're living in an interesting time, and it's just going to be very fascinating to see how the next couple of years unfold. Because I think it was last week that the government dropped their first little dose of the UFO disclosure files, which was pretty much a nothing burger. If you saw them, it's kind of like, yeah, this has been
no,
stuff
because
we've
I don't.
flown before. Well, I didn't mean you specifically because I already
Oh,
know
yeah.
the answer to that question, but. But for the other people out there who may have seen it, it wasn't that anything. It wasn't like no smoking gun or anything. But I've heard that they're going to continue to drop these
Well, I think
files.
that they're gonna have to because people are asking for it now, it's becoming more of a demand, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. Because the demand brings forth education. It brings forth things that you can consume and then decide for yourself, what do you wanna believe in? It's not a battle. I think that people view things like this as a battle of who's right and who's wrong. I don't view it that way. I view it as in, here's information, choose how you wanna live. Choose how you want to believe. Choose what you want to believe in. You get to choose. You're never going to have everybody on the same page. I don't care in what time frame where they're all going to be like, yes, this is what we all believe in, unless it's something like, about crime or whatever. But like, just when it comes to things that people want proof of, such as, psychic stuff or God or spirituality or aliens or things of that nature, you're never going to have everybody on the same page. Your job is really, or should be, to form your own opinion, and then you use that as a part of your foundational belief system, and then you just move forward in life with your belief system. I don't think it's about changing people's minds necessarily unless there's harm being done. Now, that being said, I think the disclosures are very important. I think that we have a lot of children coming up, the Gen Zs, all the millennials, that are no longer going to subscribe to a very controlled environment that they live in, whether that be in your city, your country, your state, whatever. I just think that's going to be a thing of the past. These kids are not going to want to do that. They're not, and I think that that's what makes everybody mad, because they're always like feeling like they're going rogue and doing their own thing, and nobody want to work a 9 to 5 anymore. They want to all do jobs that that require creativity or whatever. And that means they're very in tune to their spirituality. The way you move atoms and the way that you work with superposition and all that kind of stuff when it gets into quantum physics is all via thoughts. But thoughts and all of that stuff is all really closely linked to creativity and spirituality. That's where all of that is housed. And so these children, they're being born in very connected to their spirituality, even whether they call it that or not, their creativity and energy and flow. You can tell by the verbiage. The verbiage is everywhere. It's all different. 30 years ago, people weren't talking about energy very much. They were in my household, but they weren't in other people's. They weren't talking about the vibe. They weren't talking about like downtime and being more, flowing, going with the flow. Those things didn't exist. It was structure and get a job and go to college. And now you have children coming up upsetting the systematic foundation that has been in place for a while now. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, these guys are idiots. They're not idiots. They're actually super smart and they're more in tune than we've been for the past 100 years. They're the most in tune set of spiritual beings being born. And I think that's fantastic. And it's going to move things another direction.
Yeah, because I think if you really want change, you have to break the system first, the old system that doesn't work anymore. And the breaking of the system is uncomfortable. And I kind of feel like that's where we're just currently at in life. It's just a lot of change, a lot of things that are shifting that we're not used to, but it's going to lead to a better place.
Yeah, it will lead to a better place. And like I said, you have the old mindset is going to eventually die out with the older people. It's just going to go away. Even if you look in your own family of aunties and uncles and grandparents and stuff, the majority of the way that they thought, and it's not all people, because a lot of people in my family that are older do not view things so structured, but the way that that is typically, does it match the kids in your family that are in your 20s? No. They're light years apart. The way that the belief system is formed, the kids in their 20s. I had a conversation with my 17-year-old brother the other day, which that was a whole nother story. So don't even ask me about it. But that being said, he's just like the same train of thought as most of the kids his age. The government, he doesn't feel like is doing us any good. He feels like there's things that need to change. The structure needs to go away. I mean, this is what all the kids are thinking. They are grown up differently. That's not the way you were thinking when I was in high school, when I was a junior. That's not what you were taught. That's not what you felt like your experience was. This is 100% the way these kids are thinking now. Like it's vastly different. And as the old school thinking dies out, this is what's going to replace it.
Yeah.
And
Very cool.
that's, thank God.
Yeah.
Right? Thank God. And yes, I believe in God. Thank God. And if you ask me what I feel is interesting, and these are just the things that I think about, there's a reason for it. This, if we want to get into the God factor, there's reasons these thought processes are introduced with new spirits being born. There's a reason. There's a reason that these kids are being born with a different mentality. It's supposed to shift. It's supposed to change and die out. It's no longer working.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise they'd be being born in with the same mindset like they were for a while, but they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well.
So, all right. Anything else?
I don't think I have anything else for today's chat. So,
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. And if you're interested in the class, I'm sure that you will put it below. And until next week, educate yourself and form your own belief system. All right.
sounds good. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.